Namastu, friends and family, and welcome to another edition of Q Radio on a quest to bring you the Atonis Zoroastrian doctrine. As always, we want to acknowledge our sponsors and just encourage each and every one of you that are watching to become a sponsor or to donate, and we'll guide you on how you can do that in just a second. But Q Radio is under the auspices of the Holy Qubtic Church of the Black Messiah. We are sponsored by Qubtic Village, Florida, as well as Qubtic Kitchen, Bahamas. And you can call the kitchen right now at 810-3457. That's 810-3457. And you can also reach out to our other sponsor, Chlorine Depot, for all of your chlorine needs at 424-6658. 424-6658. And if you want to become a sponsor, you can do so by calling, if you're in the Bahamas, 426-1148, 426-1148. Or if you are internationally watching this show, you can go to PayPal and go to Journey Home Group, the number 2 at AOL.com. And just leave a little note to say that you are leaving a donation for Q Radio. Well, today we have a very special show. We have a special guest, our very own Ba-Sesh, who is the global leader of the Holy Qubtic Church of the Black Messiah. We had planned for you to be able to see him, but our platform with your donations and your sponsorships is going to improve. But today we do have his voice here, as you will be able to hear him. Ba-Sesh, Namastu, and welcome to Q Radio.
Namastu, how are you doing?
Doing very well, having fun with technology and finding new ways to reach our people. And we're just really excited that you have taken some time out of your busy schedule to be here with us here on Q Radio, as we are now live on Facebook, and we have people chiming in. But we want to get right to it because we know you're very busy. But first of all, can you just introduce yourself for the people who don't know who you are, and explain to them what the title Ba-Sesh means, and then of course we can go from there.
Well, my title, Ba-Sesh, let me just start with that. The title, Ba-Sesh, it is a two-part word. The first part is the word Ba, where they get the word Baba. All of the priests and priestesses in the Atonis Zoroastrian true faith bear that title, Ba-Sesh, or Bibi, for the females. And it just means the yes. Right, not the sex phase as we live, but the one who gives birth, or responsible for birthing or resurrecting or maintaining the Atonis Zoroastrian faith in this latter day in life. The word sesh is where you get the word sash, which you see people wear like a golden sash. But in the Tamarae, the ancient, one of the ancient African languages, so many, but the Tamarae, from which Aramaic and Haru-Hotep and Arabic, Syriac, Hebrew comes from, in the language, the word sesh means a scribe. So it means that I have a dual visibility. There have been Qubtic popes who only bear the title Bibi or Baba, and they're responsible for the day-to-day guidance and shepherding, if you will, of the people of the congregation, but they didn't get into writing many parchments or books. Those who have been in time called Seshat, those who were scribes who write, and that would be their title, but they weren't necessarily Babas or Bibis. In my case, as with certain others, for writing as well as shepherding, then you would bear the title. And it's not something you just put on yourself, trust me. It's a lot of hours of time researching and reading and blind.
Oh boy.
In my case. and then dealing with feasting and things of that nature. So the title Ba-Sesh, that's the title that has been invested upon me, and that I'm responsible for living up to. It just means, you can't run the street, can't smoke weed, can't do the stuff that a lot of people want to do nowadays. You have to really be of a good standing and good character as a good example. I try my best to live up to it.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
It also means shoveling chicken coop, dealing with goats, watering and planting in the garden. It means that everything that we do, as far as in rel, cell, web, right? Religion, economics, labor, sex, gender, education, law, war, security, entertainment, and politics. It means in those 9 components that at all times I must do all within my power to be the best of example when it comes to each of those things. It means again, it doesn't mean you ain't gonna make a mistake, because that's part of being human, right? But it means doing everything within your power to always be the best of example. So that means if we're out in the garden and we're planting crops on the farm or in a Qubtic garden, I have to try to shovel as much as everyone else does. And as you get older, that kind of becomes a little bit more fun to do, but we do our best to continue to do it. It means if we're dealing with the animals, you're front and center. It means if you're cutting grass, shoveling, cutting grass, painting, plumbing, whatever we're doing, you try to be the best. And that even means if you're, there's been times I'm working with another person, in the case like, for example, the Ka-Hun out of London.
Yes.
And he's a master builder. He's a master builder. So when I'm working with him, I'm the best of students. Follow. It doesn't just mean leader. It means knowing when to be led. So when it comes to building, he is a master builder. I mean, what he could do for the Kanisa, for the temple, for the housing, understanding that, I take a back seat and I become the best of students. I'm a concrete worker by trade, so if we're doing concrete, then I'll say, okay, this is how we're going to do it. And there was times in my life where I had teachers who taught me concrete work. 2 brothers I remember years ago called the Mud Brothers, we used to call them. Mel and his brother Kashif, and I learned a whole lot from them, and another, and so that's just the way it works. Ba-Sesh, it's a responsibility. You do your best to do that, and it means religiously, spiritually, that I'm the spiritual guide for those that are Totus Kerestian, and try to make sure we live in accordance to our scriptures, the original books of the Bible. Each and every day, I'll never say I'm above this. Whatever this tells us we're supposed to do, that's what we're going to do. If I'm doing something that's opposite to it and it's presented to me, then I better stop. That's what it represents.
Yes, yes. So Ba-Sesh, you mentioned the reality of you being a spiritual guide. Why do we as a people need a spiritual guide, and especially in this day and time?
Well, the reality is everybody doesn't need a spiritual guide because everyone's not on a spiritual quest. There are people that are just on a physical quest. They're enjoying life, and we're not knocking them. Enjoy it, live it up, do what you do.
Right.
As long as you accept what comes with it. It's like a person who plays American football, who knows all of the studies that have been done, about brain injuries and things of that nature, and then accept that reality, and yet say, but I'm willing to enjoy the benefits of being a professional football player. Then that person, has chosen their path. And,
right.
Godspeed, they would say. So everyone's not on a spiritual quest. So I'm not seeking to be everyone's spiritual guide. Having children and just dealing with them every day is fun enough.
Right.
But for those who have read the parchments that we put forth as the Holy Qubtic Church of the Black Messiah, for those who have read in it and seen things in it that has helped to benefit their lives, they'll come to me or reach out to me, and we have discussions on how best. When we say spirit, let's be clear, right? Spiritual guide, that doesn't mean I'm sitting around with dust and, I'm not LeBron, not doing those things. Spiritual guide, the word spirit means personality. So it means that I'm guiding those who seek to reform their personality. Those, like myself, who realize that growing up in westernized societies, under westernized thinking, westernized goals and desires,
that somewhere along the line, our personalities have been made, as the book of Revelations calls it, to be in the image and likeness of the beast people. And that we've picked up ways from Europe or of Europeans. We've eaten like they've eaten, and breathe as they breathe, and walk as they walk, and talk as they talk, and desire as they desire, and just do craziness as a people that we've picked up from being in bondage or colonized or subjugated or infiltrated or mistaught or miseducated, or whichever way it needs to be said. So we, as the Holy Qubtic Church of the Black Messiah, when we say Ba-Sesh is our spiritual guide, it just means that my responsibility is to show a better way for those who want it, those who need it, those who can embrace it, on how to carry ourselves, how to walk, talk, dress, and remake our personality to be back in the image and likeness of the guardian angelic host of Africa, in whose image and likeness we were created and birthed by way of the power of the Most High Heavenly One, who we respectfully and affectionately refer to as Ane Re, the Most High, the highest of the high. And so that's what it means when we say spiritual guide. It means I'm guiding to help reform the personality of those who embrace this Holy Qubtic Church of the Black Messiah as our mother, to become better people each and every day, changing our character, flaws, to become better so that the world will begin to respect us, because it's more than just respecting what we say, it's respecting what we do. If the saying be true that you judge a tree by the fruit it bears, then the tree that is atonism, that is the Qubtic way, that is the original books of the Bible, all coming forth from the Most High Heavenly One, is thereby going to be judged by you and I, by those who refer to ourselves as converts or practitioners or followers of the atonist Qubtic. Our solidifying in each individual is the Ka, the personal spirit, or personal personality, has to be remade in this person, and that's each and every day. And that's my responsibility, to hold all of us, beginning with myself, accountable to the original books of the Bible, the Ba-Sesh, the Evangel, the writings, to hold us accountable to things, so that we know, if I'm held accountable. We always say to everyone, I always say, if I'm not ego tripping, then no other atonist Qubtic has a right to ego trip. Yes. If I'm not running the street, then no other atonist Qubtic has a right to run the street. If I'm not smoking or drinking, if I'm trying to be the best husband and the best father that I can, then I expect every spouse, wife, or husband to be the best wife or husband or father or mother that they can. And if we do that, then we have a chance at accomplishing the goals that the Holy Qubtic Church sets forth as they pertain to Rel Sel Web, as introduced to us by the great Neely Fuller, who was brought to the world's attention by the great BB, Qubtic Pope female, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. And so we give respect in that as the spiritual guide. That's all it means.
Yes, yes. So, Ba-Sesh, when you speak of the goals of the Holy Qubtic Church, what are some of the main goals of the Holy Qubtic Church in this day and time?
Well, the main goal, the ultimate goal, liberation. Liberation, to become liberated, liberty, truly in control of our destiny and that of our children and their children and grandchildren, and sons and daughters of tomorrow. Heard to. Now, when we say liberation, it means liberation on all fronts. Holy Qubtic Church, we make the mantra, Rel Sel Web, again, is taught to the world, introduced to the world by Dr. Neely Fuller, the great, and I call him Dr. Neely Fuller, whether he has a doctorate or not, he's a doctor to me, right? That's what they do. We have a right to do the same. When he introduced the term Rel Sel Web, we took what he introduced in the compensatory of race relations, and we tailored it to make sure the Holy Qubtic Church's doctrine fits those components. So liberation religiously, that means giving up all foreign ideals as they are taught from foreign thinkers, meaning we're not embracing Arabicism, we're not embracing Europeanism, we're not embracing Europeans' Christ. We will embrace the African Christ or Christ. We will embrace the African principles. We will take everything scripturally as they presented in King James or whatever translation of the English Bible, and we're going to go to the roots of it to determine what was originally there in the Hebrew, the Aramaic, the Arabic, whatever the case may be, and how it should work for us as African people. Because the true Messiah, the true Moses, the Moseses, first, second, and third, the true children, the true Abraham, the Africans, who were these people out of whose lives and teachings were watered down and twisted to become Islam, Judaism, and Christianity was presented to the world as a European or German or Polish or Russian or Judaism as it's given. So we liberate and package it religiously in a way that we can reach those of our people who were attracted to the packaging because of its African origins, but have been given bleached doctrines and interpretation. Liberation also means we need to be liberated economically. We've learned by studying the great Jewish people that if you control your religion and every aspect of that religion, of your spiritual power, of your personality, then you control and can guarantee your economics. So many melanin people today talk about group economics, but the difficulty in pulling off group economics for melanated people is if we have different ideals, different morals. You see, the great Jewish people, or the great Hindu or Indian, East Indian people, or the great Chinese or Oriental or Japanese or South Korean or Vietnamese or Asian people, they all have a book, a writing, whether it's the writings of Confucius, the writings of Shao Zhen, the Vedas, Bhagavad Gitas, Upanishads, the teachings of Zoroastrian. Everyone has a scripture or book, and that scripture or book, it permeates borders. It can, Hinduism is left India, it's everywhere, right? Judaism is left Russia or the Levantian region, it's everywhere. Islam is left Saudi Arabia, it's everywhere. We need a religion that has a book, right? In this case, the Holy Qubtic Church, the Atonis Kadestian teachings. We have a book, the original books of the Bible, and it has the same ability now. It's permeating borders. It's in South Africa. It's in India, in fact. It's in Mauritius. It's in Mauritania. It's in Trinidad. It's in Bahamas. It's in South America. It's in Mexico. In fact, it's in the Caribbean. It's in Puerto Rico. It's in Africa. It's in Ghana. It's in Liberia. It's in Gambia. It's in Tanzania. It's in England. It's in Germany. It's in Brussels. It's in Holland. It's here in America, New York, Philadelphia, DC, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, California, and these are some of the places. It's in St. Louis, Missouri, right? It's moving. And so it has the ability to go places that I may never get to go, you may never get to go. But this teaching and its ability to change a person's perspective and approach, to merge, if you will, the Christianizing, if you will, the way Christianity is packaged and Hebrew Jewishism is packaged, to take that of Malcolm and Martin, to take the consciousness of Malcolm, if you will, and then to what includes all of the spiritual practices. She's not involved, to twist it to become where people run from it. It takes that and then uses it and uses the original Genesis, the original Exodus, the original Leviticus, the original Deuteronomy, the original Numbers, the original Joshua, the African principles, the African stories before Europeans, before King James and the Catholics and the Greeks got their hands on it. If we control that, then it tells us, for example, what you're wearing on screen on your head called a kufa, which comes in various colors, right? We can guarantee if we have, let's say, 100 men and 100 women, that's 200 people, let's say in Bahamas, Those 200 people each buy 7 different kufas, right? That's 200 times 7, right? Which is 1,400 times male and female, which is 2,800. We can guarantee that whichever family makes kufas are going to sell in the beginning 2,800 kufas a year. And if they're selling 2,800 kufas a year at $10 a piece, I'm not the best at math, right? But that if you add that extra zero, you're looking at $28,000 a year that family now has access to. And then if we multiply that by our global membership, that family has the ability to, like the Jews do with their yarmulkes, like the Sikhs do with their turbans, that family has the ability to guarantee. And then off of what they make, they can then give X amount to the Holy Qubtic Church to make sure we're buying farms and doing things that can go. Now, that same way we do that with the kufa, we can do that with the jewelry, we can do that with the chickens, we can do that with the turkeys, we can do that with the goats, we can do that with the jewelry, we can do that with the furniture, we can do that with the pillowcases, we can do that with the curtains. We can do like the Jews, the Hindus, the Buddhists, and everyone else has done. And then, so as Neely Fuller, what he gave to us and how we had to take it and look on how to make it work. It's one thing to know it, it's another thing to implement it. So we move from the religion to the economics. Now, once you do that, your economics is guaranteed. You can guarantee how many people it will take to make 2,800 kufas a year.
Yes.
So now you can employ members who would otherwise not have employment. You can now employ them. The same with the Qubtic Kitchen. Qubtic Kitchen started off with volunteers there in Bahamas, in London, here, different places. Started off with volunteers. And from volunteers, now you're able to pay those who were initially volunteers are taking the salary. Yes. Eventually, that salary will increase as the volume of sales increase. And then eventually you will go into franchising the Qubtic Kitchen. And that's how it works. So now you went from religion to economics to labor. Your labor force is guaranteed. Now your sex, gender is in order. Because now the family dynamics that they focused on destroying is in order. Because now husbands and wives, or wives and husbands, are able to get along. Because most of our disagreements are over money. Mm-hmm. But if we're now able to guarantee X amount of money is coming in, business-wise, if we have a sister who's a nurse practitioner, or a doctor, brother or sister, a sister who's a doctor, we can set up urgent cares. These urgent cares, as they're getting off the ground, can guarantee X amount of members in any one area are going to come there for different treatment. Yes. If we have 50 members going to this doctor in their first month, that guarantees 50 insurance policies being given to that family that's running that urgent care, while they get other customers, while they take on other customers to guarantee the business growth. Mm-hmm. When the Qubtic Kitchen first opened, the membership supported it. All the members said, we're all going to eat lunch from this Qubtic Kitchen every day. Yes. And after about 2-3 months of eating the same things or the same menus that's alternating, it began to attract us. As you were at work and I would order something, I'm working at a bank, the other people said, where'd you get your lunch? Oh, I got my lunch from the Qubtic Kitchen. Now they go to the, and before you, so this dynamic, it works.
Yes.
It works. Neely Fuller was right. That's why we call him the great Dr. Neely Fuller.
That's right.
You follow? He's a saint to us. We're not asking, the Pope don't ask us who to vote for to saint.
Right.
So that's liberation. Mm. When you can do that, then it guarantees all the rest. And there's a parchment that we've put out called You Slave Mind, Student Mind, or God Mind that talks about it. And there's a parchment called Disciplined Minds, Wadi Una, that gives up the way we do it. The way we do it. Now, there's going to be those who try to grab it and do it. Hey, everybody got to do it their way. Make it work for you. This is what's working for us. And will continue to work for us because we're moving as a block. We're moving as one body. We don't have millions of followers or tens of thousands of followers. We have hundreds, maybe into the thousands. But if you're moving as a unit,
yes,
man, it's amazing what you can do.
Yes.
Jesus, as they say, 12. The Jesus of the European ideal started off with 12, and look where they ended up. The Muhammad of the Arab, and again, I'm not talking about the real Messiah, Yeshua Christ. I'm not talking about the real Ahmad Mahmoud. I'm talking about what the Arabs have taught, the Pale Arabs have taught, the Arab Emirates have taught. Look what they did. Look what they've been able to pull off. None of these people are any better than us. Buddha started off as one guy, a prince who gave up all his wealth, climbed over and left out the gates and went into the world. Now there's millions of Buddhists. None of these people are smarter than us. None of these people are better than us. We just have to decide to commit to one principle. But again, that principle has to be based off of a book.
Yes.
Books have power.
Yes.
Kill me. Muhammad's been gone 1,400 years, but the Quran is still here, being translated into multiple languages. You follow? The Bible, as it's been given to the world, the most read book, they said, in the history of the world. They say, I don't know, that's what they say, so we'll have to go with it. Right? Like the most read book in the history of the European world, at least. Right? This book, it's still here. Jesus ain't here physically, but this book's still moving. So this shows us that if we put our faith in a book and make sure that that book speaks truth to our situation, we look to speak to the melanin or the African or the Caribbean or the Nubian situation and circumstances, and how we feel about scriptures, and how we feel about statues, and how we feel about race, and how we feel about the power of the female and gender, how we feel about it. We're not asking anybody else. Nobody asks, how do you feel about the Vedas and the Upanishads when they were compiling all of them in the 60s after Mahatma Gandhi and them gained independence? Nobody asked. They shouldn't, and they didn't have to. They understood that, right? Nobody asked when the Nicene Council or Empress Irene and Constantine and Constantinople and the different councils or conclaves. Nobody asked. They didn't ask us what we felt. They didn't ask us what's our vote on being who's going to be pope. They didn't ask. Nobody asked. The Saudi royals are not asking how you feel, or the Maulanas in Pakistan are not asking how you feel about the Mamadou Patel translation of the Quran. No one's asking that. They're not asking how we feel about the Quran. And they shouldn't have to, because it's their book. So we're saying, as melanated people, as ladies and gentlemen, as noble people, it's our book.
Yes.
And when we finish it, it's going to come out like the Bible, like the Quran. It's going to have about 2,900 pages. It'll be done. By the will of the Most High, within the next 6 to 7 months, we'll release it. But right now, we have portions of it. Right, this is the Ba-Sesh, right? Excuse me, this is the original books of the Bible, Papyrus 1, right? 14 books in there. This is the Ba-Sesh, the African book of Genesis. It has Genesis from an African perspective, going to the Hebrew and talking about what was really going down. They talk about the multiple Adams. The Papyrus 1 talks about the book of the Tamarayan Adam of book 12, the African Adam, the first group that goes back 24 billion years. It talks about the bones of Lucy. It talks about the Adam of the East Indian called Manu, M-A-N-U, and the Cadmonites, the book of the Cadmonites of the Phoenician stock. And it talks about the Adam of the Europeans. It's found in the Edda texts, out of Europe. They add their texts that speak from Sweden and Norway and who they are, how they came about. That's in here. And then it correlates with all your biblical verses and Genesis, Exodus through Revelations, right? The African Ba-Sesh speaks about Baba Abraham, speaks about the group of Adam, another Adam, who were at the Nile River Valley, right? And about the flooding of the Nile River Valley and how this group had to go through certain things. It was a university we call the Akhet Aten, the garden Akhet Aten of Aten or Aden or Eden. And then we have the African book of Revelations from an African perspective called the Islangeal, where we go through Revelations, but we go to the Hebrew, we go to the Aramaic, we go to the Greek even, and we show you what it's talking about, taken from the Litany of Ray and the Amduat tablets, and then give you the corresponding biblical quotes and texts. And so that's what liberation, that's what we mean. That's what we're talking about, becoming liberated. Rel, so for Atonis Credestians, again, for those who need it, seek it, and embrace it, and are willing to live it in this manner. For everyone else, hey, the beauty of about 7.5 billion people. Everybody has a right to do what they do. As long as you don't hit us, you're okay. Spit on us or slap us, we pretty much leave everybody alone.
Oh, so Ba-Sesh, one of the questions coming in is around who is the founder of the Holy Qubtic Church? Who's the founder?
Well, when you say founder, in this generation, I'm the person responsible for helping to make sure it's resurrected in this day and time. Yeah, I'll do that. When you say founder, like when did it start? It was originally resurrected with Anku, the high priest, seer, and prophet, who we call Baba Anku. He was the first, which many monotheists, in fact, scholars monotheistic scholars say was the first to bring in what they're calling monotheism. We understand what they're trying to say, but we reject the term monotheism because we understand the Greek's monos and Latin theos. But he would be the founder of it if you want to go back. But again, he was even resurrecting it because he was being taught by one known as Amun-Emhut, who we refer to as the African Jacob or Yaakov. But this religion is based off of the passion and suffering of the original sacrificial shepherd, who we know as Baba Asaru, and his wife, the original sacrificial lamb, who we know as Bibi Aset. And this goes back to the events of their lives that we find in the book of the Tamaray and Adela, here in the original books of the Bible. In fact, in the original books of the Bible, what they refer to as book number 12, it talks about the Asaru and the Aset. Today, when you look at modern Christianity as given from the Europeans' perspective, they speak of the passion of Christ, and they speak about the 14 stages of the cross. We as Atonist Kerestians understand and recognize that this was taken from the 14 suffering stages of Asaru, the Nazarite, whose body was chopped up coincidentally into 14 pieces. And these 14 stages or pieces had to be put back together by the divine Blessed Mother Aset. And there's a lot of realities. In fact, in the original books of the Bible, and I'll read it, a quick section if you may, papyrus number 1, book number 12, I'm on verse 97. It reads, remember always, this is on page 221 for those who may have it, remember always that this utterance of ours is true. The two genetic lines of children known as Shu and Teflon were important to the development of humanity in that they were instructed to teach all of the other tribes amongst Homo sapien, both immortal and mortal alike, to deal with two very important precept principles. Let all the scribes record of how these two symbolic family trees or genetic lines work to ensure that all amongst them knew, understood, and all adhered to the precept principle, which were none other than the original morality. Of course, morality mentioned in Hebrews 5:12, and Hebrews 6:1, and life standards, of course, life standards as found in Psalms 27:30, Psalms 31:19, and Proverbs 20 verse 6, recorded by the hands of Tahuti, the hand of the guardian angelic host, with the quill feather of Ma'at on the pages called papyrus, made from plants and trees. Of course, papyrus, plants and trees found mentioned in Isaiah 19 verse 7. Come all you children of the Most High Heavenly One, and may reign, and be taught of how these two trees were also known as the tree of divine wisdom. Of course, wisdom found in Exodus 28:3 as the tree, Exodus 31:3, Job 11:6, Job 12:2, Job 12:12, Job 15:8, Psalms 37:30, Psalms 49:3, Psalms 51:7, Psalms 90 verse 12, and Proverbs 1:2-3, and Proverbs 2 verse 2. I'm giving these because we want people to understand our original books of the Bible. When you read it, it has these quotes. It's the commentaries there, so you know that it's not something we're just making up. You're going to realize that the problem is not the Bible, but that you've been looking at the Bible your whole life with European eyes and not African eyes. If you look at it with African eyes, you'll see what it says. But let's continue. These two trees were also known as the tree of divine wisdom and the tree of divine life, which every female tribal leader, the Bedouins, and every male tribal ruler, the Babas, had to receive of before being appointed as a head of any of the families in clan. You have to receive this information, go through years of study before they would appoint you as such. Of the three original groups of 12 tribes of Ishmael, Israel, and Midian, which came forth out of the line of the original sacrificial shepherd, Asaru. So Asaru's line, and if you keep reading, it goes on into Asaru, explains about who they were and what these people did, right? This is important because what happens is Egyptologists will say in one breath that the whole Bible is not real, it's all made up. And we'll say as it's presented, there's a lot of myths and folklore that the Europeans added, the Hindus were involved, that the Arabs were involved, everybody's got their hands in it. But the original text, we're not going to say that the original books of the Bible, the original litany of Ray, the original Amduat tablets, which line up with the book of Revelations but give way more clarity. We're not going to say that the original records of the papyrus of Ani, the records of the Enuma Elish, the Gilgamesh epics, the Yatra Hasis, those are the original texts. Somebody took those stories, repackaged it, added chlorine bleach to it, and gave it back to us. We need the original scripture. When we read the original books of the Bible, when we read the original tablets, we read even the Bible with African eyes. When we look at it with African eyes and look at the Hebrew, and look at the Aramaic, look at the Greek, with African eyes, African mind, African ears, African heart, African tongue, African culture, we will begin to see that at its core, this was an African text. And this is what the great father, Ben Yochanan, was explaining to the world. Dr. Ben Yochanan literally said his grandmother, was from Yemen and was of a group called Beta Israel. In fact, there's a group called the Lemba that are down in Uganda today who say that they originally came from Yemen and that they are originally the seed of Beta Israel. So all of us that are black Egyptologists today, those who refer to themselves as such, you can't read Dr. Ben's books, read his teachings,
Right.
where he said, and the man who says his grandmother was a Beta Israel from Yemen,
Right.
then and this is on YouTube video, he's debating a Jewish Orthodox Jew, and on there he literally says it with Gil Nobles, the host.
Yes.
So you don't gotta, argue with me. Video's there, right? You can't say in one breath that he's the great Dr. Ben, one of the fathers of Egyptology, along with Shek Tishiak, which was their predecessor, and along with his contemporary, the great Dr. Henry Clark. You can't in one breath say Dr. Ben is right in everything he's teaching, and all of a sudden he's wrong when he says his grandmother was from Beta Israel of the original Israelites.
Right.
Just say that maybe we didn't do due diligence. Maybe there's a point where the original Israelites are the original Egyptians, the original Ishmaelites, and I'm using Egyptian, I hate that term because I don't mean Egyptos, right? The original Kemetians, or the original Nubians, or the original Cushites, or we just prefer to say, as Dr. Ben used it, the original Tamareans, right? These original Tamareans, and Baba Tumray mentions them as well, right? These original Tamareans are the seed of Ishmael, Israel, and Midian. But unfortunately, as you asked the question, who was the founder of it? Unfortunately, there's a confusion between Ishmael and Ishmaeli. Ishmaeli are the Indo-Arabs. Ishmael are the original blacks of that land of Arabia, the black lords of Kedar and Kedar, African people who were a part of the Kushite kingdom, who the so-called Arabs even say Muhammad's followers left, and when they were being chased by the Indo-Arabs, and they went over to the land of Kush under the Nagus, which was the head of the Qubtic, Yuvalo. So these Ethiopians were the original, and Muhammad or Ahmed, whose name was never Muhammad, Ahmad Mahmud, the African. I'm talking about Musallima ibn al-Habib, or al-Kadaba Habib, right, fromNej, which the Saudi royal family comes from. There's a confusion between the two. There's a confusion between Israel, and Israeli. Israeli are the so-called Levantine Jews from the Levant, from the Khazars of Russia, from the Sephardim of Spain. They are Israeli. They're the state of Israeli. They're the seed of Canaan, the Jebusite, who claim to be the original. And they are the true Jews. You and I can never be Jews. You can be the original Eber. When we speak of Israel, we're talking Eber. Eber is before Abraham. I'm not talking about Ivrit. I'm not talking about Haribu, of the cursed seed, who were the Haribu, who took the tongue and twisted Eber, which takes its origin from the Nigerian tribe named Igbo, right? That tribe existed way before.
Right.
You're confusing Midiani with Mitanni. The Mitanni called Hittites, another of the tribes of Canaan. So there's been a bleaching, a hijacking of our original teachings, and it's being given back. And my responsibility, along with the other priestesses and priests of the Holy Qubtic Church, along with the other men of the ears of the Holy Qubtic Church, along with the other Salut Ares and the other emissaries of the Holy Qubtic Church, those that are responsible for taking this information to the world. We are in this latter day, we're the ones responsible for taking it to the world. And as the guide or spiritual guide or head or Ba-Sesh or Pope, right, of this generation, it's my responsibility to make sure we keep moving in that direction of bringing true faith, true Christianity, true Hebrewism, true original African doctrines that became watered down to become Islam, the original teachings. It's my responsibility of this generation. And when my time is up, and I've given up, life, meaning I've stopped breathing, which I hope is latter more than sooner, right? But when that day should come, right, amongst the Qubtic, amongst the Ka-Hun, the priestesses and priests, another will be elected and selected, qualified. They got to be qualified. They're always going to be qualified. We study many, many, many years to become priestesses and priests. It's not something we just say, oh, I want to be a priest. Give me a nibble and a kufa. We run out and say, I'm a priest. No, not here.
No.
Many, many years. Study 8 years just to become a Ka-Hun, and then spend the rest of our lives studying and researching to make sure that our mother is protected, the Qubtic, she's protected, her teachings are protected, and never allowed to be made a mockery of or watered down. And there's many responsible. Then we have the SEM, which is the war security forces as well.
Yes, indeed. So when we say the Holy Qubtic Church, and then we mentioned Journey Home Group, how does Journey Home Group relate to the Holy Qubtic Church? Journey Home Group International.
Well, it's called the whole name, right? Because I'm one of those people. The Holy Qubtic Church of the Black Messiah, Journey Home Group International. Journey Home Group International is our philanthropic, as they call it, our hands and donations and going out and working with people, as well as doing business. It's the business arm, right? But the Journey Home Group is done in that way so that as the spiritual guide and teacher, I don't get caught up in the money, right? And I know the money, I help count the money, I know what's going on, right? But I'm not like, okay, it's all mine, and right, just get rich off the people. Designed to keep the focus, that our focus is ultimately in liberation, is to have dual citizenship and have our own homeland in Liberia, West Africa, or somewhere else on the African continent if that doesn't work out, but it's working, so knock on wood, by the grace of the Most High Heavenly Father, or Heavenly Mother, Divine Heavenly Mother Father, Divine Heavenly One, the Most High Heavenly One, and Daily. It is our goal to do like the great Jewish people have done and have an aliyah, which is a dual citizenship, and turn Liberia, areas in Liberia that we're allowed to work with the local people and the government, respectively, to build a homeland, to do as they've done for Israel, to do as the great Bob Johnson, the founder of BET and former owner of the Charlotte Bobcats, said that blacks should treat Liberia the way the Jews treat Israel as a homeland. So our goal is to inevitably get there. So that's the journey home. Marcus Moshe Garvey, one of our fathers, greatest to be born in this Western world, he tried to go to Liberia and succeeded, if not for W.B. Du Bois working on behalf of COINTELPRO and FBI and the different ways that they work to undermine the Garvey movement, the UNIA. So we've learned from all of the great teachers, from Baba Elijah Muhammad to Baba Noble Drew, to Baba Pedro Campos, Dodo Schomburg, Baba Sheikh Dawood, Baba Touré, and so many other great women and men, Miranda Annie, who's still here, thankfully. We read everybody's writings, Dr. Joy DeGruy. We read everyone's and see how we can make what they're giving us, because these are pieces to the puzzle, how we can make it applicable and in a way that's day to day. Because it's one thing to go to the lecture and read the book. It's another thing to take what Dr. Joy DeGruy has given us, as she calls it, in her lane, right? To take that which she's given us from her lane and add it to the equation. To take what the great teacher, Dr. Kaba Khamenei, has given and add it. And not get caught up in the debate, because there's so many conscious teachers that will do so much more for us who are out here debating, cussing each other out. That's unbecoming. That's unbecoming of what we're supposed to stand for. I never saw Dr. Ben and Henrik Clark and Dodo Schomburg and great Baba Van Sitterman. Never saw them sitting there cussing each other out, threatening each other. I saw them sitting on the same stage, same conversation, and each one just, lending credence to the other, each one empowering the other, and that's where we're more there. And unfortunately, gone are the days of true academia amongst the conscious teachers. Now it's just you grab Facebook, YouTube, start yelling at each other. And it's always somebody who cheers on the yelling, and meanwhile we're losing. The Holy Qubtic Church says we don't debate.
No.
We call winning surviving and thriving. We call winning not about debating someone else. If you're a teacher and you're teaching people, they're listening to you, and it's making them better people and it's working, hey, do it. We support it. Knock yourself out. Keep doing what you do. And that's the way we look at it. To debate, I have no desire. We have no desire to debate another Nubian sister or brother and disprove something. We're saying this is what works for us, and it's working. By the grace and blessings of the Most High Heavenly One, it's been working. It's going to continue to work, and moving slowly but steady with a goal. Always have a goal, have a direction. We teach the children that always have somewhere to be. If you always have somewhere to be, then you won't be in the wrong place. You won't be where you shouldn't be. So the place that we're headed is journey home, making a journey home, finding a way to connect to the African continent. That doesn't mean everybody pack up, go to Africa. It means like the great Jewish people do. They have an aliyah. Some Jews live in America, but they donate towards the development of Israel. Some Jews live in France, Portugal, Russia, but everyone donates towards the development of the state of Israel. We must do the same. Everyone can't go to Liberia. Those who can will. Those who can't won't. But wherever we are, we always have land. Whatever country or city or state we're in, we purchase land. I'm not saying houses. I'm talking about property, land, actual land, like an acre, 2 acres, 5 acres, 10 acres. And we grow food. And we develop housing. And we have our own water filtration system. And animals, goats and chickens. And whether you eat goat or chicken doesn't matter. The fact that you love people who eat goat and chicken means you got to grow goat and chicken. You grow cucumbers, you raise spinach and kale and beets. Whether you like beets doesn't matter. If you love people who eat beets, you grow it. You're an agrarian organization or society, the Holy Church of the Black Messiah. And so that's the Journey Home group is making that journey to the African continent. And again, it's not just Liberia. Liberia is where we want to build Amirna, our Qubtic Vatican city, resurrected again. But it's one of the 24 sacred sites. Everywhere we have something going on in Bahamas now, you all are working on. We have something going on in Trinidad. There's something going on in London. We have something going on in Jamaica. Little but little, slowly but surely. We're not going to change the world. Ain't trying to. 7.5 billion people. Instead of trying to change the world, just change yourself and change the environment to find us.
Yes. So I know our time is running short, but I want to ask you, Ba-Sesh. Earlier this week here on Q Radio, we spoke about the fact that we, as Nubian Melaninites or so-called Blacks, Caribbeans, etc., we're under attack. And, every day there's a new post on Facebook or there's a new story in the news about whether it's the police or some business that is in some way, shape, or form treating Blacks or Nubian Melaninites in a certain way. What is the Atonist Karastian narrative on how we as a people should deal with this reality of us being treated this way?
The way as Atonist Karastians is very simple. We say we should deal with it the way every other group of people who were being persecuted dealt with. How did the great Jewish people deal with it? How did the Chinese, from the British giving them opium, or even the Chinese that were building the rail systems out here in America, out west, and when they were being slapped around and raped and mistreated, how did they deal with it? How did the Japanese, after the Japanese internment camps of the 1940s and World War II, how did they deal with it? How did the Koreans of the Korean War, after their situation, how they were treated globally, how did they deal with it? How did the Arabs, how does everybody deal with it? They pull in towards Qubtic, towards center, and they devise a strategy that's an us first, screw everything else. If you ain't us, we ain't got time for you. See, the Jews don't help every Jewish person. The Jews work with those Jewish people that are in the fight for Jewish survival. You follow?
Yeah.
The Chinese don't help every Chinese person.
Right.
The Chinese work with those Chinese that are progressive and that are fighting to support Chinese development and Chinese success. The East Indians from India, they don't help every East Indian. They don't wait at the airport and every East Indian to come off the plane and hand them an envelope with money. They look for progressive East Indians who are fighting for East Indian survival and success. So the solution is not like a mystery. It's not far off somewhere, with Peter Pan and Neverland. The solution is do what everyone else is doing. We as the Holy Qubtic Church of the Black Messiah, we look at the condition of Black people. How did Baba and Elijah Muhammad do? They used to get mad at him, the Nation of Islam. They used to get mad at Marcus Garvey. But if you prepare to survive, if Marcus Garvey prepared the UNIA to survive the Great Depression, so when everybody else, white people were leaving their wives and making it where white women had to get on food stamps and jumping out of windows, killing themselves, the UNIA was thriving. Why? Because they had a leader who saw what was coming and said prepare, and they prepared, and they pulled in, and they made sure UNIA members were taken care of first, and then whatever was left over, they looked out for other Nubian people. So that's the same solution. Every Nubian, you know, I was watching a program yesterday, and a Nubian girl was in the car, and they just shot a brother the other night in the car, saying the car backed up towards them, and it was a stolen. They had a report of a stolen car. The car he was driving wasn't stolen. They approached the car and they shot 20-something bullets in the car. The girl survived. The guy died, and now there's another thing going on, right? And the young lady who survived said, "I never thought, you know, you hear about this thing all the time, but I never thought it could happen to me and my family," right? And we're saying that's part of the problem that melanin people are suffering from. We keep thinking it's going to happen to everybody else except me and our family.
Right.
The reality is, you know, globally, what's happened to us and has been happening to us and has never stopped happening to us is still happening to us. So what do? You pull in rel, cell, web. Religion, economics, labor. If I'm a black person and I'm in a position to hire someone, I'm going to hire another black person first. And if all the people out there is going to watch this and say, "Oh, Ba-Sesh, that's not right," it's called nepotism. The last time I went into a Chinese restaurant, I see predominantly Chinese people working there.
Yes, yes.
Now, occasionally I'll see a person of Mexican descent or African or white descent, if they don't have black people, right? Of white descent. And they'll do that strategically for the face, so that white customers can feel comfortable. So I get it. But for the most part, everyone hires their own. When you go to the nail shop, you walk by a nail shop, open the door and peek your head in there, I don't see a bunch of black sisters doing nails. We know how to do nails too. But they don't hire you. They hire Vietnamese or Taiwanese. Rightfully so. Who else is supposed to look out for Taiwanese people to make sure they get employment in a world that has very little jobs available? So we must do like everyone else is doing and not feel guilty about it. It's called nepotism. In fact, I was watching the Rock Newman show and the brother David Banner. He was speaking about it. Right. Brilliant brother. Brilliant young brother. Well, I can't say young because we're probably about the same age, right? But brilliant brother, what he was saying. We got to do our own. We need our own security force that's licensed and bonded. Right. You understand? Yeah. That secures our situation. Right. So the police, when they come, they meet our security forces that are licensed and bonded and go through the process of law enforcement.